This is, okay, it's gone.
Microphone is on too?
I believe so.
Okay, what you're going to tie tonight is called the Black-nosed Dace, and we're going to do a little variant on it. This is one of the ones that I've completed. Before we get it started anywhere, this is the hook that you're going to use. Mike will give you some of these. An Alpha Point size 8 streamer long. As we've done before, get your hook in the vise. Make sure it's good and snug. And we're going to start the thread right behind the hook eye, move backwards, but then we're going to stop right here. That's going to give us some space to put all of the materials, of which there are 3, onto the hook. First thing you're going to do is take a piece of the yarn, and you want to make it a little bit longer than the hook shank. The yarn is a 3-ply, so we're going to separate out the plies, kind of untwirl it so that we have 2 segments. You want to get it so that it's kind of straight, and let's pull them apart, put them back together so it looks like this. Place that on top of the shank, get it started, and this you want to wrap very tightly, very snugly with what are called touching turns on to the top of the shank. Move your way backwards until you get to just a little past the hook point. I'm going to trim the front, and I'm going to trim the back, leaving a nice little tag end. We'll cover this up in a few moments. Next thing you're going to tie in is a piece of tinsel. This is going to be the body rib, and you're going to measure it so that it's probably a couple of hook shanks in length. Snip it off. Put it on the side close to you. Get it caught like that. Wrap backwards. So our rib is now ready. We're going to tie down this portion in just a minute. You're going to take some tinsel. This is going to form the body. This is number 10 Mylar tinsel. Again, we're going to take it and kind of measure it and go, okay, there's 1, there's 2, there's 3. That should be sufficient to do the body. I'm going to snip that off. Then I'm going to take the end and I'm going to make a little wedge out of it. Now, what we're going to do is take the tinsel, place it so that the gold side is facing you. And we're going to get it caught, and we're going to wrap backwards. And you can see we've got tinsel, we have our rib, and we have our tag. The tinsel is going to be wrapped towards the hook eye first, and then we're going to tie that off. Then we'll wrap the rib around the fly, tie that off, and finally we'll put the squirrel tail topping or the wing on. When you're wrapping the tinsel, be sure to keep constant tension on it, otherwise it'll sprung on you. And I'll show you how to do that in just a minute. Next, we take our thread and we carefully wrap forward, making a nice, neat body. And we get to there and stop. Notice that there's a space between where the thread stopped and the hook eye. That's important because the squirrel tail is going to be tied in that area, and we don't want to have it up over here, crowding the eye, making it very, very difficult to thread. Now, grab your tinsel, go over, and you'll see that all of a sudden the gold is showing. We're going to wrap towards the front with overlapping turns. This is where you have to be sure to keep tension on the tinsel, otherwise it'll go sprung on you. We're wrapping the body forward, forward, forward. Oh, and it went sprung. So you see, that's what you want to avoid. Okay, so we're going to do it again. Now that I've shown you what not to do, start wrapping forward again. Wrap. And tinsel is very tight. It's a very strong material, so you can tug on it really well. Now, you start to get a little tired, put your forefinger to hold the tinsel and go, okay, I'm ready to continue. Over, 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 over. Now, I'm real close to my tie-in point. I take my thread, I go underneath and over. I take my thread and do that again. Do it a third time. Up and over. Our tinsel is now tightly contained. To cut the tinsel, I suggest taking your offhand, move the thread out of the way, come in and cut the tinsel. Phew, that was tough. Now, there's your body, there's your tag. Take a couple of more turns in front. Again, notice that we have the area here, which is open. Our rib is now going to be wrapped from the back towards the front to that open point. And you want to put 4 to 5 in a size 8 hook. Probably 5 wraps would be good. Up and over, up and over. Notice how I'm doing fairly open turns. Up and over, up and over, up and over. And I've got room, so I'm going to stick one more on there. Holding the rib in my offhand, I go underneath and over. I go underneath and over. I go underneath and over. I now have the ribbed body. There's my tag, a nice mylar body, and the rib. Again, take the offhand, move the thread out of the way, come in, snip the rib. The reason I move the thread out of the way is so that when I go to cut my rib, I'm not cutting the thread. Do a couple of turns. Now, each pair of you has some squirrel tail. And the squirrel tail is nice because it's pretty forgiving. The regular, so to speak, Black-nosed Dace uses bucktail. You put brown over white over red. For our purposes right now, to get a beginning, I found it easiest use some squirrel tail. Any place on the squirrel tail, take, and you want to get a clump that's fairly small. Yeah. That's probably a good one. We'll cut it a little bit more. Let me see if I can get a better focus on that. That's about half, again, as much as we need. So there. That's a pretty good size stack. Cut it close to the tail itself. Holding it in the off hand, then grab it with the on hand and kind of just smooth it out a little. We're going to measure the top wing now so that it's approximately a shank length. So I'm going to take it and go, let's get rid of those little fibers. That looks about good. I'm going to pinch with my offhand, take the thread up, bring it around and over. Up, around and over. Up, around and over. Stop for a second and kind of go, yeah, okay. Notice that that's sitting on top. Now, we're going to make some tighter wraps and move backwards towards the back of the hook. There. We've got our rib, we've got our body, our tag, and now the wing. I'm going to pull the front part up, go underneath it and in front and kind of stack it down a little bit. And now, we don't have to worry about cutting it. We can just kind of go through and we can start to build this head up. This will give you a nice head. You don't have to worry about cutting the squirrel tail at all. There, look at that. We've got a nice, neat head. We have space to tie it on, which is always good. And I'm going to move backwards. There. This is the completed fly. I'm going to just rotate it all the way around. There. You can either whip finish or half hitch the final part. I'm going to half hitch this, and eventually, now that we have the camera and everything running, we can do some whip finishing a little bit later. And I'm going to put, say, 3 whip finishes on this. Give it a little tug. There. You now have a Black-nosed Dace fly with a squirrel tail top. This will move and kind of undulate in the water. There's your tag and a nice redone head. To finish this off, I'm going to take a little Sally Hansen's and I'm going to carefully put it on the thread wraps. There. Put that aside. I'm going to check it and make sure that it looks okay. Sometimes you have to take the bobbin and you can smooth stuff out a little. There. You now have a black-nosed dace ready to go and fish. And as Mike will say, go for it and then do another one. Good luck.